right now we're not good enough, and we've got to find a way through that pretty quickly.
Have you seen that look before?
I've seen it a few times. It looked like Vossi, the captain. He's got a bit of bristle about him, which I liked, Bucks. I didn't mind that, actually. He just had a bit of an edge to him this week.
Yeah, I think, I mentioned it last week with Damien Hardwick, the way he carries himself. I think the competitors in some of these coaches, in the situations they find themselves, when their expectations haven't been met and you're not winning games of footy, you've got to be as edgy as you expect your players to be, because if you just take it flatline, you're not giving your true self. And even in that little snapshot there, Vossi was able to go, no, hey, this is what we're focused on. Because their contested game has been, they're still the best contested team in the comp in terms of differential, contested ball. But what do you add to that? Do you add contest and offence, or do you contest and defence? He's really clear. We get our contest right, now we need to turn the ball over in the front half.
Well, the thing is, we know in the modern game, we talk about it ad nauseum, if you can't turn the ball over in the modern game, you can't compete against the best, can you? If you just look at their defence since about round 5 or 6, it's been pretty ordinary. So I think they'd made some ground over the off-season. They'd obviously worked on it. It was a bit of a focus. But to me, it really showed out the difference. And maybe because they were playing Collingwood, but at the end of the day, Collingwood's the benchmark. So for me, there's a bit of method about their turnover, how they defend turnover, but part of it too is the talent out there and the lack of leg speed. So if you actually look at this vision, and it was really noticeable, wasn't it, when the Pies ripped them apart, especially in that second quarter. Like, they've got elite leg speed, we know that.
Yep.
But if Carlton wants to go with the Bucks, they need to have better runners than this alone.
Well, Tom Mitchell's sort of out of screen there. Couldn't go with his own teammates, but they know what his primary role is. But McCreery, Hill, De Goey's a power runner. Myercheck just keeps putting himself in play.
What do you do here, Bucks? Like, Jack Silvani, this was really stark for me and stood out. So they put an extra beyond the play. This is late in time on in the second quarter. But Collingwood still, when they're well and truly outnumbered, can still work their way through this. This has to be a breakdown in defence.
Well, you've got the extra number there, but what Collingwood are so good at doing is using that extra number really well. And when you burn a player off, and Newman just decided, I'm exiting stage left here, I'll let him run the arc and I'll see if I can get him around the corner. But Newman couldn't go with Bobby Hill, and then show and go. You've already got past 2 players. So there's 2 lines of defence that you're already through. So that Hill was the one that put that little chip kick over to Johnson, I believe, or Cameron it was. And in the end, it was still a 1v2 that was laced up inside 50 to go to Myercheck again. So Collingwood's efficiency and their ability to hit each other and run patterns and hit each other is what tears other sides apart.
Yeah.
When you knew that Carlton were going to be challenged by it, do you think that it was an acceptable effort? I wasn't expecting them to win. I just wanted to see their method. Was their method?
I didn't think so. The effort was great. Vossi's been talking about effort's good. The last few weeks, I didn't think that effort was great, out there, beyond the leg speed stuff. And, some of the individual efforts, like McGovern not straight lining the ball there, getting pushed out of the way by Myercheck, not picking up Bobby Hill for that first goal. That doesn't cut it on grand final day. Simple as that. So players with those sorts of standards can't be in the team. So Vossi be looking closely at those guys, Dicko.
But his defence is his problem right now in terms of the way they're setting up. It's not even a teasing defence. It's a radical defensive. We're running around and just doing what we want to do. There's no structure to what they were doing. Come up against one of the great offences you showed in Collingwood. They're going to cut you open no matter what, but how do you stop the bleeding? And they couldn't stop the bleeding because they had no system. I think that would be frustrating.
So is that getting
Michael
exposed more, Dicko, because of their lack of leg speed?
Absolutely.
So outside of Sam Walsh, I don't think they're great runners.
Well, if you can get it on the outside, make the ground nice and big, you're going to get your opportunities against Carlton. I just think they're quite slow at transition and they're slow to defend. So you take advantage of that. But on the flip side, Collingwood, in terms of the clearance game, they kicked 5 goals to 1, Brownie. That was, apart from their offence, their clearance game was...
Yeah, that was worrying for me. And I don't know what Jack Silvani's doing there as the ruckman for this 5 or 10 minute period, but this is where Collingwood gapped them. So damage was done in the first quarter from clearance, as you said. Now, the Collingwood midfielders can just get proactive here.
Well, in this little run, I think ruckman are overrated now. Like in terms.
What about when they got about 3 foot on the other bloke?
No, well, potentially, but Jack Silvani's not a centre bounce player. You've got to work out. Yeah, he might be able to compete in ball ups and boundary throw-ins, but not in a centre bounce. That's a big ask. But in the end, the midfielders at ground level of Collingwood were the ones that beat Carlton at their own game in that period. There was nearly 4. Scott Pendlebury had a shot at goal for their 4th goal in a row without Carlton touching the ball. Like, that doesn't happen very often. But Collingwood had that capacity, had that ability, but Carlton still need to push back. They didn't win a contest in the middle. Yep. They didn't win a contest in their D50, and they gave up 3 goals, 1 in about 6-minute period.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Like, did not touch the footy.
Yeah, yeah. They were pedestrian going back, no doubt about it. A question came up, Tom DeConey, Vossi didn't bite it in the press conference, but you must argue, though, where it was. He hadn't played since round 5. He played well in the reserves, but sure, he's got to be a better option than certainly the centre bounce. Jack Silvani doing the centre bounce against Darcy Cameron. That was a masterstroke. Now, clearly, Cameron was on the emergency list. He was always going to be selected, and Mason Cox was there. So, good luck, Jack Silvani, going against them.
DeConey, I watched the VFL at Williamstown, and he's getting his hands up. I mean, conditions, you know, but let's talk about Carlton when they had the ball, because their turnovers, when you're defending, you got no excuse because you're exposed. But when they've got the ball, the turnovers kill you.
Big problem with your midfield. Can't run and can't kick, Dicko. And this is what they did. They just picked out the best defender in the competition. Darcy Moore had 10 intercept marks. And some of these are just horrific kicks or decisions or both. So 10 intercept marks, which is a record. Collingwood had 20 for the game, which is also their record in an individual game as well. So, but yeah, just have a look at this. Terrible.
Well, Darcy Moore proactively positions, and he played it as well as you've seen a key defender play. He just got line of goals. Carlton weren't able to get off the line and move with any speed, very often at all. Yeah, the 11 intercept marks was reduced to 10 today, so it's just
it would have been an equal record.
An equal record with about 8 other guys, but it was a supreme performance.
And just one other thing. If you can't handball, if you can't be an elite there's no excuse not to be an elite handballer at AFL level, especially a midfielder. It doesn't matter what the sports science and the fitness boys do, they can't stop you from handballing. The amount of handballs that went to the knees or below to Carlton players when they should have been out was terrible. So they've got to fix that part of the game. Can't kick and can't handball in certain circumstances.
Well, there's nothing funny about that, but let's go to Steele Sidebottom after the game. He found something very amusing.
I shouldn't say it, but they just kept giving it to him and he kept mocking it. I actually found myself laughing there a few times because he was just gloving everything. But, pleasure to play alongside him and hopefully he keeps just loving him like that.
Yeah, well, the funny side was Darcy's just getting him lace out, Bucks, and he's giggling.
Just a little look there. I mean, Carlton had 22 scoring shots to 20. So, I mean, even that doesn't make a lot of sense. But Collingwood's efficiency and their effectiveness at the moment, they only played 1 surge of footy and then they were playing possum for the rest of the
I don't think Vossi would have thrown that up, same amount of scoring shots or more. That would have been a get out. What do you think of Luke Sayers, the president, coming out and backing Vossi?
Well, one thing you're going to get is when the coach is under heat, you need the powers that be and the people above. So the president today, Luke Sayers, had his view on Michael Voss.
We did a review 18 months ago and we believe we've got the potential here to be playing finals footy, and that's our goal for this year. And we don't only want to fall across the line, we want to impact finals. So that's our goal.
Will you guarantee Michael Voss's future if you don't make the finals?
Absolutely. Vossi is our coach through to the end of next year. Michael Voss has been a tremendous asset for this football club, and we're looking forward to doing great things with him in the future.
I'd expect nothing less, Bucks, would you? Your president comes out. I'm sure you had it a number of times in your coaching career. We back Nathan in 100%. Do you believe Luke Sayers?
I do, in regards to they want to stay. I think they want to stay the course on this tenure. The 3-year deal, end of next year, it buys you a little bit more breathing space. It settles the troops a little bit with the players. But the challenge is still there. This only happens when you're losing games of football that you're expected to win or when you're out of form. So it doesn't happen. Like Kenny Hinkley had it early.
Do you prefer that
he
as
hasn't
a coach?
had it late.
Do you prefer that as a coach in Vossi's circumstance? Do you prefer the president having a voice or just staying behind the scenes?
Personally, I don't reckon you need to answer to media scrutiny at all, because there's agendas that are run from there. But if you're not winning, the pressure comes, and it's really your supporters are the ones that drive it. Well, we're not happy. They're walking out of games the last couple of 2 or 3 weeks. They're clearly not happy with what they're seeing on field. They're the biggest stakeholder in any club is the supporting group.